program, adoption of Nexus study and ordinance, repealing and reenacting the San Diego County Fire Mitigation Fee Ordinance and CEQA exception. It's the first reading. Well, yeah. I'm going to hand over the time to our county staff.
Good morning, members of the board. So the request before the board today is to consider changes to the county's fire mitigation fee program, which is a fee to offset impacts for development of public services, including fire, to pay for new infrastructure and apparatus for fire districts. As part of the action, the board will consider adopting a Nexus study and improving the updated fire mitigation fee ordinance. Joining me today is Fire Chief Tony Meacham and Stephen Cook from Intersecting Metrics. I'll now turn it over to Chief Meacham.
Hey, good afternoon, Chairwoman. The Board of Supervisors created the Fire Mitigation Fee Program in 1985 to collect funding to offset impacts from new development. The fire mitigation fee revenue collected from building permits is distributed to the 13 participating fire agencies on a quarterly basis. Fire mitigation fee funds can only be used for capital public facilities and equipment to serve new developments and new growth within their districts. Fire mitigation fees can be used for construction, furnishing, and equipping of new or expanded fire stations, purchasing and equipping of fire engines, purchase and equipping of aerial trucks, and purchase and equipping of chief's vehicles. Additionally, each participating agency is required to submit annual capital improvement plans and participation resolutions on how funds will be spent that are approved by the fire agency's board of directors. I'll now turn the presentation over to Jeff.
Thank you, Chief. This chart shows the historical fee rates for the past 12 years. As you can see, the fire mitigation fee has only increased 12 cents over the past 12 years and has not kept up with the cost of constructing modern public fire facilities and apparatus. We've also shown some examples of fire station cost increases over just the past 8 years. The cost per square foot has nearly tripled since the Boulevard Station was built. Most recently, the fire mitigation funds were used to help fund the construction of the new East Otay Mesa Fire Station. In addition to the fact that the current fee is not keeping pace with the cost of construction and apparatus, the county is now required to complete a Nexus study in order to stay compliant with state law, which changed under Assembly Bill 602. In simple terms, the law requires us to show the relationship between the fee and how the funds are being spent. As a result, San Diego County Fire underwent an effort to update the fire mitigation fee program to align with the new fee impact requirements, which included ensuring each participating agency was separately studied, identifying the existing facilities, apparatus, and population served for each district, and calculating the proposed new ratio for funding future needs. Adopting a capital improvement plan required as part of the Nexus study, adopting a Nexus study at a public hearing with at least 30 days notice, and updating the Nexus study at least every 8 years, beginning on January 1st, 2022. County Fire has several planned capital projects, including new fire stations at Borrego, Ramona, Jacamba, and Descanso. Having adequate fire mitigation funding will ensure these projects stay on track and are built to meet our growing needs. So the Nexus study focused on defining the level of service per person and maintaining that ratio as future development occurs. The first step is to quantify the existing infrastructure and population in each district and what it would cost to build or buy that infrastructure. The next step is to set a standard ratio of infrastructure per population, and such as how many people are being served by each engine or station. You calculate the total cost per person to implement all existing public fire facilities by adding up the value of current public facilities and dividing by the service population. The last step is to apply that cost by land use designation, such as residential, industrial, and office space. Rates are based on average occupancy and average square feet of each category. This slide shows an example of the fee for San Diego County Fire, starting with the cost per person per engine. The ratio is based on having 30 fire engines for 117,850 people, or one engine per 3,900 people. With the cost of an engine now exceeding $1 million, the cost per person is $262. We use the same formula for a fire station and other apparatus, giving us a total cost of $1,731 per person. Sandag population numbers were used to determine the residential averages, which came out to 652 square feet per person. Once we divided the total cost per person by the average square feet, the last calculation winds up being $2.65 per square foot. This is specifically for residential rates. The rate will vary for each different land use designation. I will now turn the presentation back to Chief Tony Meacham.
Thank you, Jeff. Here are the proposed new fee rates for each of the 13 participating fire agencies by land use. It is important to point out that each fire protection district has already taken action to adopt revised fee increases in their jurisdiction, and those agencies are in support of the action before the board today. I also want to point out that the Borrego Springs Fire Protection District will soon be dissolving, and San Diego County Fire Protection District rates will apply in that community. As you will notice, each district has its own cost per service population. The shorter answer is the more dense the population is within a district, the lower cost per person. There are now 7 proposed land use categories with the rate based on average occupancy and average square foot of each land use designation. The current categories are limited to general construction, ag buildings with and without sprinklers, and poultry greenhouses. Lastly, County Fire is proposing the addition of an automatic annual adjustment of fee rates to keep up with future increases in construction costs and other inflationary factors based on the 1-year change in the Los Angeles Construction Cost Index. I'll now turn the presentation over to Holly.
Thank you, Chief. Today, we're asking the board to find that the proposed action is exempt from CEQA, to adopt the fire mitigation fee update nexus study, waive board policy B29, and approve the fire mitigation fee ordinance. If the board approves the actions today, we will return on May 23rd for a second reading. The new fire mitigation fee rates will be effective 60 days after approval of the second reading, and we're available for any questions from your board.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and public comment.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 8 requests to speak on this item, 4 in person and 4 requesting to speak by phone. Also note that we received 1 e-comment in opposition of this item. Any members of the public that requested to speak on item 21 by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers, starting with those in favor of this item, followed by those in opposition. As your name is called, please come forward and stand against the east wall under the murals until it is your turn to speak. I'd like to invite forward Brian Bogolm, Jason McBroom.
For clarification, you put in favor of or without having it on.
Okay, great, thank you. Now I hear from the individuals that are in opposition to this item. I'd like to invite Alan C. and Mark.
Some clarification. I'm actually for the firefighters, but I believe we can get funding somewhere else. Rapid funding. Chair Vargas, you sit on the Air Pollution Board. You have direct comms to CARB. CARB has been wasting our money in the electric car charging stations to benefit SDG&E. I refer you to AB 1054, $10.5 billion wildfire lawsuit insurance that you are paying for. Everybody here is paying for that to not prevent fires, but in case they get sued again. Look into that, AB 1054. That is so corrupt. A few years ago, I remember the wildfires. My teenage daughter, she came out, says, "Dad, there's snow on your car." I went out there. No, that's somebody's home. That's somebody's life. The biggest carbon footprint, Chair Vargas, is wildfires caused by SDG&E. You have direct comms to make action, make change, to tell CARB to send that money to prevent wildfires, bury the power lines, bury the power lines. You've heard me scream that several times, Jim, but that's how you're going to resolve this. Because the biggest wildfire with biggest carbon footprint is wildfires. I do thank you, Chair Vargas, what you mentioned earlier, because it was wrong for her to talk about campaigning for her side of the audit. You know that was wrong. So I thank you for doing that. I yield back. Thank you so much.
Thank you. A final call for Mark. We'll now hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted. You'll hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. Remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. We'll start with our first caller.
You know who I am. All of these fees that you guys want to collect while saying, you know, you want to help people is quite absurd, because there's No way that you can continue to add fees to any and everything you can touch and claim at the same time that you're trying to keep people from being homeless or, you know, be in poverty and stuff like that. If you guys really cared, you wouldn't be upping these fees 50%, then 75%, then 100%. Then what's going to be after that? 150%, 200%, 300%. I mean, you guys keep going, and nothing ever, the people don't ever see anything for the money that you spend. You have to do this because of all of these requirements, and you're making people, applicants who, when they're getting a building permit, and not only are you adding this, but you're always changing the permitting process. So you're leaving people without the ability to get anything done. But as long as, you get it right away when they're in the permit process, you'll get the money, and then you'll continue to make them jump through hoops just to be able to build. And like Alan said, I mean, if you guys really cared about all this carbon footprint, I mean, you'd be looking at that. But yeah, you guys, everything you do is totally corrupt, and everything you do shows that you do not care about the people. You don't care if they have to do all these things, as long as you're sitting up there just, you know, throwing money in different buckets in different people's pockets, in your own pocket, all while pretending like something is going to happen that's going to be great. We're still waiting. We've been waiting. Nothing changes except for the fact that it gets worse. Nothing gets better. You guys realize that, right? Like, actions speak louder than all of the words, all the words that you use to pat yourselves on the back and act like you're doing all of these great things for the people, when in reality, you're making it so that we're going to go into 15-minute cities. You're going to usurp every right that the people have. It's time for the people to wake up and start.
We'll hear from the next caller.
It's true. This item says the county's fire mitigation fee program taxes building permit applicants. That allows fire agencies who lack legal authority to directly impose and collect mitigation fees. Talk about openly admitting to going around the law to directly tax somebody. But now there's a pointless nexus study to reimagine the fees people will be charged. Of course, using stakeholders, soup consultants, and agencies who have a vested financial interest. The public opinion. When has it ever really mattered? Let's be real. Not that there's anything wrong with funding fire suppression, emergency medical services, and fire stations. I just don't understand why it has to be developers footing the bill. It should be the community who requires it. And specifically, that should be via the county budget, as this government is the representative for the unincorporated area. This item even admits that, quote, the program does not recover costs associated with consultants and county fire, and will be funded with property tax and existing general purpose revenue, end quote. So then what's the point of charging developers? Just to financially impede development? This racket reminds me of carbon offsets, or even the same concept as giving by right approval to so-called affordable housing. That's ugly, sustainable, slate gray stacking packages and block housing projects where only a maximum of 20% of the units are of a lower price. What I'm saying is that these direct fee operations are all fraudulent, unethical, and unrepresentative of what best serves each respective community. And in relation to this item sustainability impact statement, development impact fees need to be lowered for single-family homes so we can all have legitimately affordable homes without government in the way. But I know the excuse. The state will sue us. How about all the cities sue the state? And we can end the climate change cult charade once and for all. So no to this item, no to democracy, but yes, the constitutional Republican government. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Hey, on the fire mitigation fee program, oh, by the way, I'm Paul Hinken. Is this to raise more funds because some agency pretends to know all about San Diego County? Maybe it's to punish those who live in outlying areas. I think that the increase should be equal across the board. I'm outraged that Borrego Springs Fire Protection District would pay $8 per square foot under the proposal. Most of the people who want to build there are lower income. We all need to pitch in. I have a hard time believing that the potential cost and risk of putting out a wildfire have quadrupled in the few years. Are you paying for the fire-related toys you buy, maybe? Or maybe this is vehicle miles traveled tax or a road user charge without actual road-related name? We have not had any really huge wildfires in years. Certainly there have been wildfires, but nowhere near as serious as 2007 and before. Firefighting methods have improved. I see no justification for raising the fees from 58 cents to $2.65 in the San Diego County Fire Protection District, for example, a 450% increase. This is ridiculous, and I urge you to reject this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation as well. And so I just wanted to say that the fire mitigation fee program is obviously very important to ensuring that we have our station and our engines, and it's been mentioned, and equipment for serve our future unincorporated areas as well. And all 5 supervisorial districts actually benefit from this, and so it's extremely important, including my district. So fire mitigation fee revenue will help fund state-of-the-art fire stations also in East Otay Mesa that is opening later this year. But I just want to remind my colleagues that it helps everybody, not just District 1. And I think the study that has been completed really is showing the true cost of providing capital expenses. And so I know that it's also supporting 12 other fire protection districts that participate in the program. And I was just at the San Miguel Fire, I think it was last week, and saw firsthand all the work that they're doing, especially right now. And so with that, I'm happy to make a motion to approve the recommendation for this item.
Amendment.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I always wanted to be a firefighter. So I got my mustache all ready to go here. I have to prove it all? Okay, anyway. So I appreciate all the efforts here, and I understand this is on new construction only. And I think it's going to, in the San Diego County Fire Protection District, for the average home that's 1,700 square feet, it's going to immediately increase the fees by $3,500 per household. And so, well, I understand the reasoning. I think we should do what we can for our constituents and hopefully reduce the burden of housing and the cost of housing if we can. For that reason, I think we should phase in the increased fee in the San Diego County Fire Protection District only. And so I'd like to make a change to the motion that for the San Diego County Fire Protection District, the residential rate only, not the industrial, not the commercial, but only for the residential rate, that it be increased by 50% of the maximum in the fiscal year 23-24, and then 75% in the next fiscal year, and then up to 100% of what you're asking right now in the fiscal year 25-26. So I'm only looking for a San Diego County Fire Protection District residential homes only. We're not building enough of them in the unincorporated area, but to have that as the a phasing in over 3 years.
What would be the impact of that recommendation?
So we typically collect about somewhere in the neighborhood of like $320,000 per year for residential, for the fire mitigation fee. If we were to go to the new rate, it would be over $1.4 million for residential. And so if we go to 50%, it's going to be about $700,000. So we would be year one missing out on about $700,000 in revenue if we did it 50%. And so then 75%, and then the full amount. So there would be a gap for that first year and then the second year, based on what we typically get for residential for fire mitigation fees.
Go ahead.
So I have a lot of rural portions. The number one complaint is fire insurance and attaining fire insurance. Would this have, what you're doing, have any impact potentially on the fire insurance, whether able to get some or whether to get it at a more reasonable rate? Is there an offset for those folks that you build a fire station for?
Supervisor Anderson, I think there could be some very negligible effect on fire insurance rates. Fire insurance rates in San Diego are in large part set by our wildland risk, and that is not going to change it. Certainly, having newer and modern facilities that can hold an adequate number of equipment and have the proper staffing. If you live within, the mile and a half and have a water source, it could impact your insurance, but I don't think this is going to have widespread, significant impact to insurance rates.
So are you okay with that amendment?
No, but we need to move this forward. And, I wish we could just do it all at once so we can start moving the process forward. I know what it's like, particularly in areas like East Otay Mesa, Bonita, some of the unincorporated areas that I represent. But,
Well, can I say, this is a 5-fold increase all at once. So we're going to what?
but part of the challenge was that we couldn't, is there a reason why it wasn't happening before?
Could you repeat the question, Chair? I'm sorry.
Why do we wait this long?
So the rate historically stayed the same. The rate did not have an escalator built into it. Staff realized this in 2018. We had done an initial study and prepared to bring a rate increase forward. At the time, there was pretty significant economic uncertainties with where we're at with the pandemic, so the decision was made not to pull that, or to bring that item forward to the board. Subsequent to that, state law has passed, which requires a nexus study. And so the fee has to be set in accordance with the guidelines established in the nexus study. We brought in a consultant. We do have our consultant here today. And that was what the study came out to based on current construction prices.
And so are we able to modify it the way the supervisor is recommending, and it's going to be okay?
Yeah, it's
going to have an impact, a financial impact, but it's not. We're still going to be.
I think the two things, Chair, for me that are important is number one, we don't impact the other fire agencies, which my understanding is this only applies
for our own.
To our fire districts, and the fire districts that have their own independent elected officials would accept that. And while it is a loss of revenue, I think that we are still leaving the fee for force and effect on other forms of constructions, that the impact to the fire district is minimal, and certainly a policy decision of the board, but I couldn't say that it's going to have a significant negative effect on the district.
Okay.
And then, just as a follow-up question, wasn't there an advisory panel that was their recommendation to phase it in over 3 years?
Correct.
So that was the advisory panel's recommendation. And would this in any way at all deter or make less our firefighting capabilities now or over these next 3 years?
No, Supervisor, it would not.
Okay, I would appreciate it.
I'm good either way. My home's I can't go 3 years without being evacuated. So when it comes to firefighting and apparatuses, think of me as the breakfast. Some people are the chicken, some people are the pig. I'm the bacon in this. So I'm absolutely good to move forward in either direction. What I don't want to do is not do something, because I think that mitigation is better than nothing.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Yes, sir. Reluctantly.
And Chairwoman Vargas, I'll repeat for the record that this motion includes an ordinance that is amended with the following statement: for the San Diego County Fire Protection District, the residential rate shall be set at 50% of the maximum in fiscal year 23-24, 75% in fiscal year 24-25, and 100% starting in fiscal year 25-26, noting that the fiscal year runs July 1st to June 30th. Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present voting aye.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item 22. We're going to go ahead and have a public comment. Oh, wait, do we have a presentation on this item? Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Vargas and members of the board. The County of San Diego Emergency Medical Services Office, a division of County Fire, ensures the highest quality work product and customer service while continually evaluating for efficiencies. The office has a fee schedule associated with some of the services provided to EMS personnel, agencies, and hospitals in San Diego County. On May 4th, 2021, the board approved a 3-year phased approach to tie fees to costs. The board took action last year on the second phase, and today's action represents the final phase of the 3-year fee plan. At this time, I'll turn the presentation over to Fire Director Jeff Collins.
Thank you, Holly. This slide describes the services associated with the fees. The EMS office credentials emergency medical technicians, provides paramedic accreditation for medics, and authorizes nurses that work in the base hospitals called mobile intensive care nurses. Each year, the EMS office receives approximately 5,000 EMS personnel applications, reviewed by a team of 5 dedicated staff, usually within 3 business days. We also provide oversight of the private ambulance industry by permitting new providers and inspecting over 500 ambulances per year. The county EMS office designates base station hospitals and trauma centers per statute. The office works include quality assurance and quality improvement reviews, policy protocol development, program coordination and communication, and review of hospital compliance with statements of work. There are 7 base hospitals and 6 trauma centers in San Diego County. I'll now turn the presentation over to Andy Park.
Thank you, Jeff. Since 2016, the EMS office has been focused on efficient service delivery through an online credentialing system, resulting in improved user process with most credentials processed within 2 business days. We've undergone several reviews to ensure that we have the right number of staff and the correct classifications to complete this work. We've even reduced by 1 staff person over this time period. Negotiated salaries and benefits have increased, resulting in the need to escalate our fees over this 3-year period. This chart details the fees included in the proposed fee revision package. As Holly mentioned, this is the 3rd phase of a 3-year increase. All 8 EMS office services and fees were analyzed for compliance with Board Policy B29 and approved by the Auditor and Controller. This proposal recommends an increase to 3 fees and no change to 5 fees. The determining factor of a gradual increase for EMS personnel fees was to lessen the impact to the provider community and ability of the EMS office to mitigate that impact while still working towards B29 compliance. In an effort to enhance equity and diversity of the EMS workforce, we will be working in a future framework of our fees to remove barriers that may prevent someone from pursuing a career in EMS. The EMS fee package was presented to the Emergency Medical Care Committee as an informational item on April 27th, 2023, and there were no issues or concerns expressed by the committee. The EMS office plans to communicate to stakeholders over the next year the county's commitment to achieving full cost recovery while considering the impact to the EMS providers. Notifying the community of increases to fees well ahead of time will allow them to plan accordingly for fiscal year 24-25. I'll now turn the presentation back over to Holly.
Thank you, Andy. Today's request includes 2 recommendations: waive Board Policy B29, which requires full cost recovery. The board has previously directed these fees to be waived and provided appropriations to facilitate access to services provided. EMS will reinforce with stakeholders in the EMS Advisory Committee meetings the county's requirement for full cost recovery and the department's commitment to revisit the fees annually in order to achieve this. The second recommendation requests the board consider an ordinance amending sections of the San Diego County Administrative Code related to EMS fees. If the board takes action as recommended, then on May 23rd, the proposed ordinance will be brought back to the board for consideration and adoption. Chairwoman Vargas and members of the board, this concludes our presentation, subject to your questions.
We're going to go ahead and open up for public comment.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 4 requests to speak on this item, 1 in person and 3 requesting to speak by phone. Also note that we did not receive any comments on this item. Any members of the public that requested to speak on item 22 by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speaker. I'd like to invite forward Alan C. You have 2 minutes to address the board.
Again, Alan C. I actually apologize. I meant to put a green slip because I want everything for EMTs. I do want to point out, I'm your eyes and ears in the South Bay. I'm Chula Vista. I see what happens at Health and Human Services Center down there. I see an ambulance about once a week. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a guy that looks at how to prevent, not how to add more money into a program. I mentioned earlier the fentanyl. You guys have your once-a-year celebration outside of all the fentanyl people that died, and yet nobody here speaks against the hospitals that actually prescribe that same fentanyl. So look at prevention. Yes, we need to support AMTs, but let's look at prevention, and I'm pretty sure in the county as well, some of them calls are because of fentanyl. That's one area you can do right now. This board can actually do that and start attacking the state to outlaw fentanyl in the hospitals. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone.
Like a 911 dispatcher, I've got nerves of steel and a heart of gold. This is truth. Looking over these boring fees, the EMT certificate and recertification, the paramedic accreditation, and the mobile intensive care nurse authorization and recertification are all increasing to $146. That's a 16% increase. But it's surprising that there's no change in the annual vehicle inspection fees. You think that it would skyrocket with the constant pushing of electric vehicles and the de-incentivizing of driving or owning vehicles that totalitarians such as Soviet-inspired Hassani Kratza and all the money-loving compromisers at Sandag and CARB engage in. Nora, you know. But even just the permit application fee for a ground ambulance is $3,549. It's no wonder people have to drag their own injured bodies to a hospital with fees like that. And for a hospital just to receive a piece of electronic paper that designates them as a base hospital, the permit fee is $24,888. But don't get me wrong, safety inspections are necessary, but permits do not ensure safety. Already called out disgraced Nathan before on that point when last year he waived permit fees when all of a sudden he said businesses affording the permits were the priority rather than safety. But all permit fees ensure is that the entity charging them makes a profit off a new industry they created. A great example is the DMV. If licenses for cars meant every driver was an expert, then why do we have crashes? Taxes and fees have never had anything to do with safety. They only have one purpose: representation or tyranny. So where is the representation in these fees? How about the equity or social justice? That's the problem. Nothing but sellouts. Nobody puts their money where their mouths are. Not the good guys and not the bad guys. So I'm going to say no to this item.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
You know who I am. Again, another fee, and I love this because this one is so special. This fee is for EMS to ensure that San Diego community receives medical care by appropriately licensed and verified personnel, properly permitted transport vehicles, and appropriately designated hospital facilities. Weird, because without that fee, you couldn't ensure that, right? So it's up to us to help you to ensure that the people that you're having take care of other people are licensed. So without this fee, that's not possible. I wonder, with all your COVID policies that made the medical workforce basically leave in droves, just like the police force and many, many others from the county, you know, maybe you should think about that and that you have a place in maybe not having the right people and or enough. And so therefore, then you got to punish the people for the policies that you put down. And so I'm wondering, too, when you're permitting these transport vehicles, are they going to be, you know, greenhouse gas emitting, or are they not? And so I wonder, when you push one agenda and then it doesn't follow into the rest, you know, I mean, practice what you preach. So, yeah, you guys are the reasons that the medical staff is gone and that you would even need to acquire more and make sure that they're licensed. It shouldn't be up to the people to make sure that these people are licensed and that, you know, so that we can be taken care of in the county. It's BS. You guys leave everything upon the shoulders of the people while you destroy it and then pick up the pieces through fees and, you know, all the other things that you want to, you know, put down on the people. It's absurd, and everybody's watching you. Nobody consents to the BS that you guys are putting down on the people. All of you guys should actually go. It shouldn't just be Nathan. Each and every one of you are complicit in every single thing that he did. You're the same. You're no different. You guys pretend like you're so great and like we're doing this to help the people. Well, you're putting them in poverty.
Thank you. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on this item.
Any comments, colleagues? Motion? Second? Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present voting aye.
Okay. Next item, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is item 23rd, specific to the Department of Animal Services.
Chairwoman Vargas and members of the board, the Public Safety Group has one final fee item before you for consideration today. We're here to request your approval for proposed fee schedule updates for the Department of Animal Services to be effective in fiscal year 23-24. The fees currently being charged by the department were last approved by the board on June 4th, 2019, and have not kept pace with the steady increase in departmental operational costs, which have been affected by inflation, across-the-board increases in the cost of goods and services, and an increase in sheltered animal inventory and lengths of stay at county animal shelters. These trends are also affecting our peer organizations and animal services providers throughout the County of San Diego. While the department has actively reviewed their fees over the years and compared them with the regional rates, no changes had been proposed before this fiscal year due to economic hardships experienced as a result of the pandemic and to allow for stabilization in the regional economy. In order to keep pace with the rising costs and observe cost recovery mandates, it's necessary for Animal Services fee schedule to be amended. Department of Animal Services remains committed to providing excellent service to both people and animals while maintaining fees at levels that are fair, equitable, and at parity with industry standards. For more on this, I'll now turn the presentation over to Kelly Campbell, Director of the Department of Animal Services. Kelly?
Thank you, Holly. The Department of Animal Services works to ensure that animals are safe from abuse and neglect, that the public is protected from aggressive animals and zoonotic disease, that those committing infractions are educated regarding animal welfare laws and ordinances, and if need be, held accountable for violations in a court of law. We ensure that any lost, stray, or abandoned animal has a safe place to call home and receives veterinary care in one of our 2 shelters. And we also make sure that every effort is made to reunite lost pets with their owners, and that any animals not claimed by their owners are placed in loving new homes or with rescue partner organizations. Since July 1st, 2022, Animal Services has taken in 4,752 animals, providing care for their care and veterinary needs, some of which can be extensive, depending upon the animal's condition at intake, in one of our 2 physical shelters. Returning lost pets to their owners is a top priority for the department, and of the animals entering our shelters, more than 683 were reunited with their owners. More than 1,943 were adopted into new homes. 1,125 were transferred to one of 250 rescue groups that the department works with to secure positive exits for homeless pets and livestock. Other outcome types included interagency transfers for out-of-jurisdiction animals served by the San Diego Humane Society or Chula Vista Animal Care Facility, and other owner-requested or shelter euthanasia for animals that were irremediably suffering. The Department of Animal Services does not euthanize for time or space and is committed to maintaining live release rates in keeping with national best practices. We receive more than 5,139 requests for service on an annual basis. These requests may range from calls about dogs running at large, sick or injured animals, to dog bites, to animals that are being neglected or abused, to requests for service from other law enforcement agencies. The department is also responsible for licensing dogs that reside in the unincorporated areas of San Diego County in order to facilitate reunification of lost pets and ensure compliance with rabies vaccination requirements. So far this fiscal year, we have processed 7,369 dog licenses. Per Board Policy B29, county departments are required to recover full cost for services, and unless there's a justification to request a waiver. Historically, the board has waived this requirement for DAS. The Department of Animal Services is keenly aware that caring for a pet can be expensive. We're sensitive to the needs of pet owners experiencing financial hardship, And with this in mind, we strive to keep fees below market rates for services. We never want fees to be a barrier for reuniting lost pets with their owners or prevent prospective adopters from acquiring a pet, nor do we want to increase fees such that other critical services become inaccessible. DAS seeks to balance cost recovery mandates with an amended fee schedule that still enables our clients to access the animal care and control services that they need. In order to help mitigate expenses and operate as cost effectively as possible, DAS leverages support from our amazing volunteers, some of whom you saw this morning, with more than 200 shelter volunteers contributing nearly 14,000 hours of service this fiscal year to date. The department also uses temporary expert professionals, or TEPs, to help mitigate the cost of veterinary services, and we continue to seek external funding through grants to offset costs, and we've been fortunate to be named as beneficiaries in several generous estate donations. This fall, DAS will also be implementing a new cloud-based case management system that will expedite our in-shelter transactions and streamline our patrol activities in the field for additional efficiencies. In preparing the fee proposal for fiscal year 23-24, department staff reviewed existing fees. 56 fees were analyzed with 39 increases proposed, 15 requiring no change, 1 decrease to zero cost for senior and disabled adopters, as well as codifying 2 fees that were previously not published in the fee schedule. This fiscal year, DAS has provided more than 575 free to the public spay-neuter surgeries for pet owners experiencing financial hardship. These costs were covered by outside grants and designated departmental spay-neuter trust fund dollars. In this proposal, 5 low-cost spay-neuter fees were added to DAS fee schedule to maintain the sustainability of this critical program service, offering in the longer term as trust fund monies are depleted. Excuse me. In reviewing proposed fees, Animal Services used time studies measuring the amount of time it takes staff to perform a number of services. Other costs, such as supplies costs and services that the account pays for, such as facilities maintenance, are also taken into account. Costs that are outside of the department but still contribute to the cost of operations, such as county council and HR services, are also factored into our cost assessments. Of DAS' $9.9 million budget, approximately 75% comprises salaries and benefit costs, while 25% consists of costs for services and supplies. DAS does not have any ability to influence most cost drivers affecting the final expenses allocated to the department. For instance, annual salary increases and board-approved equity adjustments, as well as retirement costs, affect the department's total expenditures. In services and supplies, costs such as utilities increases that are allocated to DAS via internal service funds factor into our current need for fee adjustments. In addition, we compared our proposed fees with other similar agencies in the region to determine if our proposed fees would be comparable to market rates for services. DAS also analyzed local economic and animal services needs data to ensure that the proposed fees are attainable and residents of the department's service area will still be able to access services. The completed analysis, along with the department's proposed cost recovery proposal, is submitted to the County Auditor and Controller's Office for review and approval of methodologies used by the department. If you'll take a look at the current chart, you'll see that if today's request is approved, the department expects to take in an additional $352,000 in annual revenue. This incremental revenue is critically necessary to offset the increased costs of animal sheltering, in-shelter care, patrol functions, and delivery of client services. For reference, the regulatory fees shown above include rabies quarantine, dangerous dog and guard dog permits, and owner-requested handling of deceased pets. In this chart, you can see the relative difference in revenue amount for each of the fee categories, comparing annual revenue from current fee structure to the proposed fee structure. For instance, the revenue from dog licenses would increase by about $109,000. As fees have not increased since 2019, the proposed adjustment aligns with current market rates for this service. Taking a look at our top 5 fees by annual volume. This chart shows the annual volume of the department's top 5 fee-based services, the current and proposed fee, as well as the regional average. Proposed fees will be comparable to fees charged by other agencies in the region for like services. And the following slides show the comprehensive list of proposed changes to the fee schedule. Dog licensing fee adjustments proposed at this time remain below regional averages in order to encourage licensing compliance. Because fees differ based upon the spay-neuter status of owned pets, the Department of Animal Services also offers affordable access to spay-neuter services and litter abatement programs aimed at making dog licensing compliance affordable and accessible for pet owners countywide. Spay-neuter is one of the most widely needed and least accessible, least affordable basic veterinary care procedures that pet owners in unincorporated San Diego County are currently seeking. Animal Services recognizes the critical benefits of spay-neuter to the health and well-being of families and their companion animals. Spaying and neutering not only prevents unplanned litters that would ultimately end up in our shelter systems, it also reduces nuisance behaviors like running away, house soiling, and potentially aggression. It also helps prevent certain later in life cancers and potentially fatal infections, helping pets live a longer, healthier life. The department is committed to continuing to provide access to spay-neuter services for those who would otherwise not be able to obtain the procedure, particularly for those experiencing financial hardship. Relative to adoption fees, our proposed adjustments are aimed at getting closer to cost recovery goals while making the joy of pet adoption and the comfort of companionship that pets offer accessible and affordable for county residents. Animal Services is proposing expanding the current $0 adoption fee for seniors and disabled residents to include all animals in shelter care, not just animals over 5 years of age, as we recognize that each individual household is unique and that the animal best suited to a household may be younger than 5 years old. In animal sheltering, impound relinquishment and boarding fees are intended to help offset both the cost of care for animals while they're in our shelters and the operating costs associated with maintaining staff and physical facilities. The department recognizes that economic uncertainty and housing insecurity are real concerns throughout San Diego County and seeks to adjust fees to address rising costs while remaining below regional averages. Veterinary medical treatment is often needed for animals entering county shelters, and the department has seen rising costs for veterinary care due to a national shortage of veterinarians that is driving field-wide salary increases. The department's committed to maintaining affordable access to owner-requested euthanasia for irremediably suffering animals whose owners may have no other accessible options to say goodbye to a beloved pet humanely and with dignity. Proposed fee adjustments are made with this accessibility goal in mind. And finally, for regulatory fees, for those owning pets that require in-shelter quarantine, dangerous or public nuisance dog registrations, or guard dog operator permits, proposed fee adjustments increase internal cost recovery efforts while again remaining below regional averages for these critical public safety measures. Those who have, those whose pets who have passed away and are seeking disposal services may do so at one of our 2 shelter locations for a reasonable fee that is more closely aligned with current market rates for service. Before I pass back to Holly, I'd like to mention that in the attachments to our documentation, attachments A and B unfortunately reflected the former fee structure. Attachment D reflects the current proposed fee. And I'll hand it back now to Holly Porter, who will walk us through recommendations.
Thank you, Kelly. In summary, the requested actions before you today are to waive Board Policy B29, fees, grants, revenue contracts, department responsibility for cost recovery, which requires full cost recovery for fees, approve the introduction of the ordinance amending the section of the County Administrative Code related to the Department of Animal Services fees. If the board takes the action as recommended, then on May 23rd, the proposed ordinance will be brought back to the board for consideration and adoption. And this concludes our presentation. We're available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 4 requests to speak on this item, 1 in person and 3 requesting to speak by phone. Also note that we received 1 e-comment in favor of this item. Any members of the public that requested to speak on item 23 by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with our in-person speaker. I'd like to invite Alan C. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board.
12 up again? Do you mind pulling 12 up again? As she's pulling it up. Page 12 on the, oh yeah, thank you. As she's pulling it up, I'm just surprised that all the purple shirts have left the building. I'm surprised they're not recruiting the dogs into it too. If they could, they would. And that's where our fees are going up. But on the other hand, I had adopted a pug dog from Chula Vista, and it was a very good price. But my son was adamant. He wanted a wiener dog. He was adamant. He wanted wiener dogs, so we had to go to Helen Woodward, over $500. So that's what we had to suffer with. Both dogs have passed away since, but I own 4 cats. In the interim, we had all 7 animals. Sometimes a pug would come out of walk up to you with all the sand on his face. You got to help me out of the litter box. Pretty bad stuff. But that's where kids are growing up, so there's your new kids for you. I've got 4 cats, and I guess I could almost be a crazy cat guy according to some of you people up here. But yes, pets are wonderful. The fees are not that much more. Just the only concern is as you raise the fees, yes, you have some for the senior and the people who really can't afford, but how many people will be deterred from adopting a pet with so many in the shelter as you raise the fees up? Just something to consider, because as I see that $150 from 100, yes, we want the older dogs adopted first, but you can already see if you jack up the fees a little more, and it's just going to be more dogs. I don't know, do they get put out after so many, so that's a concern. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll now hear from those that requested to speak by phone.
This is Truth, and I dedicate this comment to the memory of 2 pets, Boots and Babe, that died almost exactly 1 year ago. So, Alan, he's holding it down. Good job. His item says that about 6,500 animals from the unincorporated area of the county enter the Department of Animal Services 2 shelters annually. Here's the question. How many animals do they euthanize, kill every year? Let's see that ratio and see what quality of service they're really providing. I do like, though, that the item says, quote, increasing fees to full cost recovery would deter some residents from licensing their dogs and from adoption or claiming animals. This would likely contribute to unnecessary euthanasia of sheltered animals and impair Animal Services' ability to maintain the county goal of zero euthanasia of healthy and treatable animals, end quote. It admits the goal of always seeking more money from licenses and adoption, while also having a goal of no euthanasia. But the caveat is, who determines if an animal is healthy or treatable? I've had plenty of trained and very expensive veterinarians say that different animals of mine over the years were a sure shot at death, and yet every single one lived for years after. The lesson is, don't listen to anyone who tells you there's no hope, especially for good health, humans and animals alike. So I am glad that local economic and animal services needs data was analyzed to ensure that the proposed fees are attainable to residents of the department service area. But I guess that's out the inflation window, with increases in 39 of 56 existing fees, plus 7 new fees for a total of 63 fees. Like the coldest-hearted bank, I imagine more animals to not be taken care of due to insufficient funds. I'm going to withdraw on this item and deposit a no vote. Are you supervisors tired of hearing about increased fees yet? What a boring discussion. Nobody took that into account. Come on.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
You know who I am. You guys are despicable. I thought there was a recession that was anticipated. I guess, I don't know, sometimes that matters and sometimes it doesn't. But as, Truth was saying, you guys were worried before that this would, cause an abandonment of dogs or euthanasia or, they would go unlicensed or just people wouldn't adopt. And so now I'm wondering how that's changed. It doesn't, right? It's just, that's the idea. I guess it's good to, change the carbon footprint if you get rid of animals, right? And so, just doing this will make it so people don't want to own them. But I would tell people, why are you letting the government dictate anything with your animals? I don't know why you want to license them. I don't know why, because you got to do it every year, right? It's like, why can't you just license them forever, as long as they're alive? But no, every year, and you got to keep doing it. And as if they're unaltered or altered, it'll depend. So as long as they alter dogs, right, there's not going to be any more. And as long as you continue to vaccinate them with God knows what. I mean, even the whole rabies shenanigan is BS. And the fact that you want them to be vaccinated with that continually, just like the people, right? It's a good way to get rid of them, good way to reduce greenhouse gases. You guys are right on track with that. So, people need to quit coming to the government to have them dictate what happens in their lives. You should not be bringing any kind of animal to them or it's going to die, because that's what they want. They want their hands in everything. People need to keep giving them that and acquiescing to this BS. It's ridiculous, and it's up to the people to stop complying and being complicit with that. Let them do their whole complicit compliant thing. Let them be compliant with each other. It's time for the people to take their world back and quit listening to these people and thinking that you have to do anything that they say. You don't. So don't listen to this. It's propaganda. It's all BS. Take your power back, you guys. It's up to us. We're giving them control.
Thank you. Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on this item.
Yeah. Second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, please vote.
Can I just,
Oh, go ahead.
quick question? I appreciate the presentation, Kelly, and particularly on the animal services and things like that and all the things that you try to do to get people into home. I just got a question. With all the mental health issues we have out there, it seems like pets would be a helpful companion to many people with mental health issues. Are you seeing an increase at all, or are you working with Dr. Bergman, I guess, trying to get maybe some help with animals, with people with mental health issues?
You know, that's a great question, Supervisor Desmond. Thank you. I'm not currently aware of any such programs, but I would be more than happy to coordinate with Dr. Bergman on those. I know, and I'm well aware of the research that you mentioned that supports the positive effect that companion animals have on mental health. And so, countywide, I don't know that we have anything in the works on that, but more than happy to.
Just a thought. We have a lot of mental health issues, so I appreciate. Thank you for letting me answer the question. Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. And, I forgot to mention that I wanted to say thank you for having the adjusted fees, particularly for our unsheltered population, because I know that one of the big, issues is that, they have a lot of puppies and dogs and stuff like that, and so they want to make sure that they can keep them. And so if we can do anything to help that, I think that's really great. So thank you. I appreciate that. Now we can vote.
Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present voting aye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, team. The next item on the agenda is item 25, to approve the acceptance of state funding for community projects authorized grant. 24. I'm ahead of myself. Notice of public hearing, approve of ordinance amending Article 15B of the San Diego County Administrative Code relating to health and human services charges and fees. I know you have a presentation. Is there something that you want to make sure that we share, or?
Chairman Vargas, we can do the presentation or go to public comment.
Do you have enough information? Would you like? Okay. Supervisor Anderson, are you good?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm happy to make a motion to support. Okay. Any discussion? Nope. Okay. Please vote. Oh, public comment. Great presentation.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 7 requests to speak on this item, 2 in person and 5 requesting to speak by phone. Also note that we did not receive any e-comments. Any members of the public that requested to speak on item 24 by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. Both speakers are in opposition of this item. I'd like to invite forward Alan C. and Mark. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board.
Alan C., this guy just won't go away. I apologize. As I said, I'm your eyes and ears down in the South Bay. Little backstory, I work as a merch, so I see firsthand what's happening down in South Bay. I see firsthand what's happening down at that Health and Human Services, that disaster down there that you guys put right next to a school. Over 1,000 kids in that school, and there's a Health and Human Services right in front of it. Next door, you know it, there's a park down there, Harborside Park. It's still kept fenced off. Because why? Needles, hypodermic needles. They had to take the seats out. President of the high school, he said when he was a kid, he even supported closing the park down. He had a tear in his eye because of what's happening. Health and Human Services, if you don't provide a homeless shelter next to it, they can't camp there, and I guess you call it camp, in that parking lot. Why? Because there's 5 security guards in front of the Health and Human Services, booting them across the street. Again, as I mentioned earlier, you want to help these people, provide a shelter, not affordable housing, because here we have Health and Human Services. I wouldn't have got a packet. I wish I would have brought the packet. A packet this thick. Inside was all kinds of funding for EBD cards, for funding to, in case you got to pay your child support because you got divorced. There's all kinds of extra funding for this, for that, for cannabis, all this stuff. Oh, by the way, when you walk up the street for the Health and Human Services, not 1, but 2 cannabis shops in that Target parking lot. So wraparound treatment, all you got, except for what they really need, is enforced treatment and actually provide lodging. Take that Harborside Park. I already talked to my city council, Chula Vista, that they will never open, that they're trying to slough off onto the school, which is dangerous. Make that your homeless shelter next to the Health and Human Services Center. Then you have your wraparound treatment. Not only will you have Health and Human Services providing all this wraparound services, but you will provide them shelter so they can be monitored. Affordable housing is no way to monitor the people who are on drugs, because the people in tent, I'm not trying to be mean to them, but I'm looking at reality. It's not mental health, Jim. Majority is on drugs.
Thank you. Thank you. Time is up. Thank you. Final call for Mark. We'll now hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone.
Paul Henkin. HHSA messed up on COVID. So how much do they need to fix it? Mike Barillo's reports might have given you a clue. Did you read them? Anyway, I see a huge increase for coliform and enterococcus wastewater testing, a 77% increase for rabies testing. Are we thinking of the victim? Probably lower income, living near a pit bull maybe? Can they afford it? But why are we so concerned? Most coliform bacteria are not harmful. A person that has been exposed to certain of these bacteria may have an upset stomach, vomiting, fever, or diarrhea. Enterococci are typically not considered harmful for humans. However, it seems to be a good excuse to close beaches. I pity the vendors who make their living from beachgoers. I do not think that it is worth upsetting people's lives and people having fun in the sun. That is tourists and others, a bread and butter issue, for a few diseases which aren't that serious. If the authorities can wait 3 months to notify the public after a TB case, why make a big fuss about that? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Do all of you supervisors need animals? Is that what you were saying, Jim? Oh, you're funny. It's the truth, and I wield both the spear and shield of truth that can either offend or defend those who hear. It just depends on whether or not you persist in staying submerged in lies. Credit to Mike Barillo for the inspiration on that one. His item contains a total of 85 Health and Human Services agency fees. With as much harm as the HHSA has done to this county, at this point, I actually think that they should pay people to rectify the damage their experiments have caused. I mean, really, people like public health dictator Wilma Wonka of the West, that's the best that has ever been offered up here for health. And now this year, there's a county public health lab offering up faulty PCR tests. And for those known faulty tests, all of the prices happen to have increased, including the Panther, PerkinElmer, and the new gene expert for SARS-CoV-2, SARS, influenza A and B, and even the really stupid variant, RSV. The brand new gene expert PCR test fee is the most expensive at over $43. They got to pay for those brand new accessories the supervisors just approved. Ironically, the most expensive test fee is the one most full of crap, and that is the MTF for total and fecal coliforms in wastewater at about $338. Wilma loves crap after all. That's why she did such a great job of delivering every CDC regurgitated and submerged COVID data-driven deception update that clearly stole everyone's time.
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal. You stole it, so you get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
And that's a great ending, but are you supervisors tired of raising fees on everyone yet and causing homelessness? That's the segue into the next item. You're welcome.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
You know who I am. So I'm wondering if the people can assess fees on you guys for all of the money lost from your policies. Who knows? Yeah, I love it because HHSA is so great at failure. I mean, the hepatitis outbreak, right? I mean, Dr. Death failed at that. Then she continued to lock us down when there wasn't even a case of COVID in San Diego. How smart. So glad she did that and all of the things. And so, yeah, here we are again. We're, testing fecal matter in the water. Why do you care? I mean, you get people sewer water. Does it really matter if it's in the water? I mean, and the fact that you're charging so much for that. And then for COVID tests and all the other flu and whatever things you guys want to claim are out there, all the boogeymans, it went from $0 up to, up in the 40s. So are you going to continue to use the faulty PCR tests that have been recalled because they don't work? Good. That's so smart. And I just love that you guys continue to add fees and that you claim that they are fair and equitable for customers and the public. Anything Dr. Death does or has her hands on, or any of you guys, slowly gets destroyed. It's like it melts. That's why you guys hate it when we come in and or call in, because you can't stand the truth coming to light. It justifies you because you guys are going to fall from grace as well. Everything that you're doing, everything you did with COVID, everything you're continuing to do, all while pretending to help the people, it's so great. Your propaganda is off the charts. You guys need a round of applause. You're so good at what you do. It's so great. Pat on the back. Love it. Are you guys going to do anal?
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. That concludes public comment on this item.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Please vote.
Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present voting aye.
All right. The next item on the agenda is item 25, approve acceptance of state funding for community projects, authorizing grant agreements with Casa Familiar associated actions, and establishing appropriations. I know what we've heard this before, and I know that there's a couple of items. So I just want to say thank you to staff for coming back with this item for approval. Majority of San Diego's low-income renters are currently living paycheck to paycheck, and one of the realities is that there's fewer and fewer opportunities for them to achieve wealth with limited homeownership opportunities. And so this board letter supported funding for innovative models like Casa Familiar and meeting called Avanzando San Isidro for community trust, and the CLT model is going to lead new home ownership opportunities. And so what we have found is that CLTs really are an anti-displacement strategy that helps remove land from real estate market and secure permanent affordable housing. And so I am excited about this opportunity and the investment of Casa Familiar and the CLT model. It's a great opportunity for the county to support a pilot program and, look at different ways of expanding opportunities. And so really looking forward to this. I'm happy to make a motion on this item, and we have a second, and then why don't we go ahead and open it up for public comment and then go from there.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 5 requests to speak on this item, 2 in person and 3 requesting to speak by phone. Also note that we received 1 e-comment in favor of this item. Any members of the public that requested to speak on this item by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. Both speakers are in favor. We also received an individual registered their support but did not wish to address the board. I'd like to invite forward Michelle Krug and Lisa Cuestas. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board, and I'll ask you to please state your name for the audio record.
Good afternoon. I am just thrilled with this opportunity for our San Ysidro residents, for the families. As a kid who grew up in the projects in Brooklyn, New York, I know that we never had any anticipation of ever being able to do something like that. And for these families of 30 to 60% AMI, this is just amazing. It is just a dream come true. And I really am thrilled that the state is passing on this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. For the record, that was Michelle Krug.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. My name is Lisa Cuesta, CEO of Casa Familiar. I request support of this item as it'll bring over 100 homes, new homes to the region in a very innovative model, and will begin as a rental model and transition to a home ownership opportunity. And I'd like to commend my board for donating the land of which these homes will be built upon and remain in a community land trust in perpetuity, remain affordable, and be life-changing opportunities for over 100 families. I'd like to share that Casa Familiar with SANDAG and the City of San Diego have applied for additional funds for this project, and were recently notified that we were among the highest scoring application in the entire state. So I thank you for the support to this point and ask for your continued support. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone.
The lies melt just like the wicked Wilma Witch and Wizard of Oz. I'm all the answers to every question you're afraid to ask. This is truth. Homelessness, a crisis of creation. Too many bad people in positions of power, arming themselves with the power of excessive taxation without representation, whether through fees, licenses, and or permits. Development fees, property taxes, capital gains taxes, income taxes. What's left for the one who worked hard to earn it? Fewer and fewer legitimately affordable homes. Now wannabe dictator Tony Atkins has decided that a total of $2.7 million is going to Casa Familiar for a communist land trust to build ugly, sustainable, slate gray, Soviet-style, stack and pack prison block housing projects. And at least $1.26 million of that amount is state debt dollars. Casa Familiar, you already get plenty of money, including from the federal government, to do things such as installing pointless air quality monitors to tell us how we're all going to die from GHGs any day now. Casa Familiar's board members even includes bankers. Did everyone know that the county considers housing to be affordable if its cost is $650,000 to $800,000 a unit? This item even admits, quote, actively pursue all available funding to ensure San Diego receives its fair share, end quote. The sad thing, though, is that most of that money doesn't even result in more homes. Perhaps that's the new sustainable housing for everyone. No home, no car, no GHG, no grid overload. The key to creating homes that are legitimately affordable is for government to just stay out of the market. The county's framework to extend homelessness has indeed become an industry at this point.
You're looking at billions of dollars that are being thrown into the homelessness issue. It becomes an industry in itself, and it's like the goal is to get more funding. And then you have politicians who...
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
You know who I am. Pilot program. Jim, you like this one? I bet, because it has the word pilot in it. I bet that really just made you get all warm and fuzzy. So I love that your priorities are to actively pursue all available funding to lift up and invest in our community to ensure that the San Diego receives its fair share, which is funny because you don't talk in there about really doing anything. You just want your fair share of money because you feel like you're going to be left out from all of these projects. And I find it interesting that this funding was originally for something else, and then you guys had to repurpose it because, you know, none of you can do what you're set out to do, so you got to move the money around. And the fact that we're dealing with Tony Atkins here when her wife and her have a conflict of interest dealing with things here in San Diego and any of the housing, after 5 years of SB2, collected more than $1.6 billion in real estate. It only spent less than a quarter on housing and homelessness. But it's funny because it was supposed to go towards affordable housing, right? So where's the rest of that money? It's so funny. You guys love to get money, pretend like you're doing something. Homelessness gets worse, and the money gets into the other pockets of, like, what, the nonprofits, right? And the CEOs that are sitting there claiming that they're going to give housing to people. interesting, but I bet, Jim, just because this is called a pilot program, you're going to probably want to put it through. You guys are really intelligent. I just love that, your propaganda updates still, act like you're doing something. I mean, it's great if you actually did, and they weren't just pipe dreams, and the homeless situation didn't continue to get worse. I mean, because we have people like you saying what affordable housing is, all while you guys are living in, pretty significantly big houses with a lot of staff. All while the other people have to sit and go, that's affordable? Weird, $600,000 is affordable? To who? You guys? Think about what you're doing and quit perpetuating the problem with everything that you do.
Thank you. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second, and I did fail to mention that the support would not have happened without the leadership of our pro temp, Tony Atkins, who really understands the need to look at different models, and so that we can really think about how we're going to address the issue of home ownership in our region. So I'm hoping this will be a model that can be used throughout the county as well. So with that, we have a motion and a second. Yes, sir. Oh, sorry, didn't see that.
No problem. You know what? This program's outstanding. I'm very excited about it. But I'd like staff to perhaps look at doing something like this in my district. I think that there might be equal opportunities. And as this proves as a good model, if we could investigate that, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present voting aye.
Thank you, everyone. Dios mío. The next item on the agenda is item number 26.
Yes, the next item on the agenda is the...
Go ahead and, I think there's some.
The next item on the agenda is the proposed ordinance for fees for services by the recorder of the assessor recorder county clerk. We do have staff here that are available to do a presentation if the board would like. Okay.
I was just waiting for them to get up here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any of my colleagues have any questions on this item or, yeah? Nope. Okay, let me go ahead and go to public comment and then we'll.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 3 requests to speak on this item. All of those requests are by phone. Also note that we received 1 e-comment, and that was a neutral comment on this item. Any members of the public that requested to speak on item 26 by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. Just give the caller a minute to dial in. We'll hear from our first caller.
Okay, when BOS gives you a bunch of discussion lemons, you have to make the world's most sour, disgusting lemonade that reminds you of a yellow snow cone. It's true. Here we go. The assessor, recorder, county clerk, has tons of fees. Fees, fees, fees. It's never enough. Money buckets overfilled, drowning, swimming like Scrooge McDuck.
We're not going to let this money change us.
What are you talking about? This money is our ticket to the good life. Starting now. I just bought a giant room full of gold coins, and I'm going to dive into it like Scrooge McDuck. Ah! It's not a liquid. It's a great many pieces of solid matter that form a hard floor-like surface. Ah!
And the lesson in all that is, if you get too greedy, you'll get hurt. I don't recommend it. Here are some examples of fees. A base recording first page fee of $10. Non-exempt grant deeds for monument preservation costs $10 each. A first notification of involuntary lien costs $13, with each additional involuntary lien costing an additional $6 each. The first page of map filing costs a whopping $50, with each additional page another $10. And then there's a whole bunch of different services that have no price point listed, including for a birth certificate or a death certificate. What's up with that? We can't even know how much it costs to label us with numbers like cattle. And this isn't the first item to say this, but I finally have a chance to point it out. This item's sustainability impact statement says, quote, the proposed actions align with the County of San Diego's sustainability goal of promoting the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, end quote. I do love a good, honest admission of treason, aligning American, Californian, and San Diego residents' goals with a foreign agency who is diametrically opposed to everything we stand for. So no to pushing anti-American and anti-freedom organizations, and no to entities with way too many fees. He said to make this item fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from the next speaker.
You know who I am. So 154 million you got in real estate fees in 2021, and 5.3% went to local programs. Where's the rest of the money go? You guys love to collect fees and act like you're going to use them for whatever you're claiming you are. Then it doesn't happen, and people are left wondering. But it's not a wonder when you pay attention to what's going on. And as Truth said, in their own items, they talk about their agenda. All they claim that Agenda 21 and 2030 and 2045 is totally BS, right? But then there's the wording that comes from them right in their agenda. People need to pay attention. Everything that they're doing is in line with that. They tell you right there, all you have to do is pay attention. So no matter how many times they try and deny it and that they are engaging in treason and one world government that they want, it's all right there. All you guys have to do is read their words and know that none of this is ever going to make anything better. Everything that they do, all the fees that they enforce and sit here and all these fees, I mean, it's funny because the recorder only gets 5%, but they want him to get 10%. And then who gets the rest? The DA. That's interesting. So how is that actually going to help the people, or is that going to help the DA's corruptness? Because I thought this was for the recorder. It's not, right? It's just a bunch of hocus pocus. You guys just want to pretend, that you're just so great. I'd like to give you all a gold star. Yeah, you guys should all wear it. It'll allow you to get in anywhere. Great. How's your pedestal, you guys? Is it keeping warm? I can smell the sulfur from here. Crazy. I don't even have to be in the room to smell it. You guys emit it from everything that you do. Godspeed. And Nora, don't use God ever again and say, God bless you. You don't even know God. If you did, you'd be turning away from everything.
Thank you. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on this item.
I'm going to refrain from saying anything. Item number 27, I'm happy to make a motion to support this item. Second. Any other discussion? 26, sorry. No more discussion? All right, so go ahead and vote.
Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present voting aye.
All right. Item number 27. Notice of public hearing to adopt a resolution establishing county council hourly billing rates for attorney and paralegal services. I think we also have a presentation, but I don't know if my colleagues. Did you have a question? Okay.
That's just for fees.
All right.
We do have a
they're
staff
trying to find out if I know what I'm doing here.
We do have a staff presentation available if you'd like, otherwise.
I think, does anybody need the presentation at this time? All right, so why don't we go ahead and go to public comment, and then we'll come back and have an additional discussion.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 3 requests to speak on item 27. They are all by phone. Also note for the record that we received 1 e-comment in opposition to this item. For the members of the public that requested to speak on item 27 by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you.
Okay, and I'm just going to remind folks on the phone, so they might have missed it, but just a reminder that it's important to keep on the topic at hand. This is item 27. Notice public hearing to adopt a resolution establishing county council hourly billing rates for attorney and paralegal services. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll begin with our first caller.
Truth. Nora, you should just speak your mind. Tara's not even there. Who cares? Since when does county council deserve higher pay? Aren't you supervisors already on something like your 5th county council already? I'm assuming that you guys have finally found a willing minion that can be bought and paid for, cover your advisory and litigation issues, of which there are many. from naughty by nature Nathan to Frankie Greer, to everything else in between. It's embarrassing. In 2020, we had Thomas Montgomery leave, and there was Thomas Bumpton. And what happened to Lonnie Elridge? No reason was offered to the public as to why he was thrown aside. Then there's Claudia Silva. What have you been doing, Claudia, with all this corruption? But here's a great joke. On the county website, it says that, quote, county council attorneys are frequently called upon to address constitutional issues, including issues involving freedom of speech and religion, rights of privacy, and due process, end quote. Yet in the chambers today, I've seen countless instances of censoring free speech, Nora, as well as the insulting of people's religious beliefs by Tara, for example. Where was county council in defense of the people in any of those types of instances? But the problem with the word county is that it really refers to an incorporated government, a corporation, which has no care of representation other than of itself, of course. So the county council actually covers the butts of these supervisors, the clerk, the CAO, HHSA, the medical examiner, planning and development services, the public defender, and more. The corporation collects taxes from the people to cover itself. How about that? Anybody want a representative constitutional Republican form of government instead, with equal protection and justice under the law? Those were the days none of us have been alive to see. But the corporation stands to make over $3.3 million in hourly billable services to their clients. So this county council position is very important to fill for the billionth time. It's $270 for the attorney hourly billing rate and $148 for the paralegal rate. Isn't that wonderful? Making tons of money off of...
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
You know who I am. Love that you guys love usurping the rights of the people. And I mean, is it fair that people get $25 more an hour when the attorneys only get 22? I feel like that's not equitable, but whatever. And it's funny because you guys are a big old circle jerk with the county council, because if they don't know what to do, they refer to you, and then you refer to them when you don't know what to do. And so you guys just go around in a circle and nothing gets done. And as was stated before, all the people's rights are being usurped. And why are you going through so many county councils? Because they're not doing your bidding, or I don't know. But the fact that you want people to pay to have their rights usurped and not have any constitutional rights when these people should be protecting them, because I can't remember, but do they take an oath to a Constitution just like you guys do, just like the sheriff does, just like all these officials do that have faux power? And you guys use this to be like, we need this for legal services. We need to get the 3,364,000 from this, all to take the people's rights. You're not doing anything that you took an oath to do. None of you are. And if you want that kind of money, then you damn well better protect the rights of the people instead of taking them every chance you get and silencing them. It's ridiculous. You guys are corrupt. Everything you do is corrupt. Everything you touch is corrupt. Nothing, and no matter how many times you guys want to pretend to throw Nathan under the bus like he's so horrible, you're in that same boat sinking with him. And all of you are going to go down with the ship. But you have the chance to turn away from all of that. So I suggest that you do, because all of this is bullshit, and none of this is constitutional. And all of you took an oath to uphold. So fucking do it.
Thank you. Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on this item.
All right, happy to make a motion to support. Is there a second? Second. All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, let's go ahead and vote. Okay.
Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present voting aye.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item 28, and we're going to go ahead and move to that discussion. That's the County of San Diego's administrative code relating to the registrar of voters' fees for records and services. And I'm going to go ahead and open up for public comment.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 6 requests to speak on this item, 2 in person and 4 requesting to speak by phone. Also note for the record that we received 1 e-comment in opposition of this item. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. For all those that requested to speak by phone on item 28, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. Both in-person speakers are in opposition to this item. I'd like to invite forward, speaker slip indicates the name Electing Czar and Alan C.
Thank you, Chair Vargas, for allowing 2 minutes. That's pretty good because it actually gives a little more time. Alan C., as I mentioned earlier, please not a dime to any political action figure, code blue, whatever you want to call them, to electioneer and only notify certain voters for this District 4 seat, because that is so corrupted. We all know that. Not a dime. Michael Vu, please fight for that too. Okay, concerning the fees, and I guess I'll go into the title and summary. Let's go back to 2018, Prop 6. We put in, that's when I first got hardly involved, to repeal the gas tax. Yes, vote will repeal the gas tax. But yet, by the time the electorate got it, they changed it to eliminate recent road repair. Measure E, Chair Vargas, our city. John McCain at the time was mayor. He wanted to put a rebuttal against Prop E. Prop E was allow federal funding for roads in Chula Vista, but go back to what we voted previously, open bidding, union, non-union, and he wanted to put a warning, say, voters, be wary of, they change the title and summary again, be aware if you vote yes on this, it will go back to union only. So thank you, Register, for changing off the cutoff date. Mayor Salas got involved for that shenanigans to actually change a cutoff date where John McCain at the time City Council could not put a rebuttal in because she changed the cutoff date last second. Something to look into later. But it goes to show you, when you're putting these fees, and again, this little political action thing like Terry Lawson is doing, it also happens on the ballot book. Think about that. To actually not be allowed to communicate to the voters, and they went back to union only. We all know everybody here loves the unions because you get campaign funding, but it is so corrupt. You're supposed to represent the people. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Hey, how you guys doing? My name I put in there, I guess elections are this time. I would like to go ahead and address any changes to the election process we should not do. For a simple reason, because I believe in 533 days from now, the complaints that I gave you guys regarding the amount of missing ballots, meaning you mail out ballots and ballots do not come back returned, right? Now, I believe that this issue will be addressed in the next presidential election. And at that point, I'm going to take this time to learn how to dance a jig, because I'm going to come back here the next Board of Supervisors meeting and dance, because every single one of you guys are going to address the issue with ballot harvesting. I know this because once the wrong person wins, the media is going to jump all over this. I already talked to the media. The media says that they have it in their back pocket, every issue that I brought up to you. But you want to say your opinion matters on this election. And I definitely understand seeing Tara's argument on targeting particular voters that will go for her campaigns and putting all that money in there. And you had no issue discussing it in private, but you had an issue with talking about it in here, because you did mention the fact that you did agree with it, but you didn't want to talk about it here. Please review the tape. I love it, because you guys showed your cards. And I'm also planning on, clipping a bunch of these clips that I came over here and expressed this stuff to you, and you guys refused to ignore it. Matter of fact, Nora, you called the cops on me. Or was it you, Michael Vu, like 3 times, trying to get me to a restraining order to prevent me from asking questions?
Thank you. Thank you. We'll now hear from those that requested to speak by phone.
Paul Henkin. I do not think candidates should have to pay to get their information printed in voter info guide, elections code or not. I think they should be commended for their openness. But getting to the ROV fees, I think that the per hour fee for staff searching files or the $173 per hour fee if they happen to declare technical research is way too much. A county office should be willing to serve all people regardless of their ability to pay, especially when financial records are only 10 cents per page. We seem to be approaching a democracy, as in DM or Deutschmark. And by the way, Nora, you need to rein in your temper. I mean, you know, probably any school kid tell you. When someone misbehaves, you turn off the mic and address him or her in a reasonable tone. You do not start shouting over the mic, over the people. It's a disgusting display of power. It's infantile. I mean, it serves no reasonable purpose. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Even though Election Guru is the only commenter really required for this item, this is truth. I will say that I love telling city councils about just how many questions the registrar of voters don't even have answers for, so everybody can hear how corrupt the whole election system is here. Credit to Votes in the Void Boo. He brings the doom with a black belt in voter fraud. Cuyahoga County represent. I still remember how Michael Boo was so happy when Nathan was sworn in this year. Haven't you guys seen him smile? Well, the smile is the same as his frown, but still. The vote center model that mails a ballot to every active registered voter only increases the chances of fraud. All this corrupted system has done is destroy accountability, security, integrity, transparency, accuracy, fairness, and public confidence in the electoral process. And all these fees are being raised for every fraudulent service, the worst one being the cost for candidate statements. Someone running for supervisor would have to pay $518 in a setup fee, plus $8 for 1,000 registered voters, and that doesn't include other applicable fees. All of this leaves people jaded from a lack of representation, when all that's left is selected officials like a communist country. If the register of voters can't be cleaned up, and I guess by dirty politicians it can't be, then perhaps it should just be defunded. Don't collect an extra $7,000. Just go straight to jail for voter fraud. A wise saying is, those who vote determine nothing, but those who count the votes determine everything. So lastly, I demand you answer all questions from any and all election gurus. Go ahead, don't be a chicken. Here's the jig music, Ethan. All right, enough of that. That's a note.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
You know who I am. Kind of interesting that you say San Diego County has 1.9 million active registered voters. The ROV's mission is to conduct voter registration and voting process with the highest level of professional election standards, including accountability, security, and integrity. Therefore, thereby earning and maintaining public confidence in the electoral process. So that's interesting. And a person's vote can influence policy and who represents them in government, which in turn impacts their environment, health, and quality of life. Having appropriate resources to conduct fair and accurate and transparent elections allows for eligible citizens to have part in the matters that affect them. A person's vote has directed influence on sustainability of their neighborhood, community, and local region, directly impacting health, equity, and the economy and environment. Interesting. Interesting. So those are all the reasons why you won't let people have a vote, because they would have an influence on all the things going on around them. And if the people had an influence, that would be dangerous, right? And it's funny because anytime you ask the ROV for any information, they try and scoot around the question for any records that you want to get, trying to pretend like they don't have them or they don't know what you're talking about when they're the ones who deal with all of that. And the fact that you want to increase the fee for people to put information on a ballot, good way to keep people from running, right? Because if they don't have the money to put that up there, nobody can know about them, then nobody will vote them through. All you guys do, if you wanted the process to be right, you would go to hand-counted paper ballots. It's bogus. You know that all of these machines are corrupt. Counties all over the United States are getting rid of them. You guys better follow suit. And if you actually cared and wanted to hear what people had to say, you would make their vote matter. That's why this whole election that's coming up, if you use those machines, you're going to put in whoever you want to, and the people still won't have a say. So don't put this kind of fucking gaslighting words in this agenda when you don't even follow it or do anything in line with it. With gaslighting, the virtue signaling, like you guys are.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. That concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you. I'm happy to make a motion to support. We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present voting aye.
Thank you. We are going to bring back item number 14, which is the General Services Continuation of Emergency Repairs at the County Administration Center. I'm happy to make a motion to support. Okay. Any additional discussion? We already had public comment on this item. We just need to vote on it. Yeah? Okay. Go ahead and vote.
Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present voting aye.
Wonderful. The next item is that each meeting will ask any folks to see if they have any updates on board committee reports. Does anyone have any reports? Nope. Okay. That concludes the business for the board today. We're now going to proceed with adjournment in memory so today's first adjournment in memory is going to be presented by myself in memory of Danny Hernandez. Today, I will be adjourning this meeting on behalf of Daniel Hernandez, whose passing has really impacted our communities across San Diego and Imperial counties. Daniel Hernandez was born in Brawley on September 30th, 1956. His parents were activists in the Brawley American Citizens Club, which were to elect candidates who supported Latino causes. Daniel was walking precincts at the age of 8, connecting with neighbors and getting an early education in democracy in action. He attended Imperial Valley College and eventually attended San Diego State University, proud Aztec, working for the director of EOP at the time. In 2016, Daniel joined San Ysidro Health Center as the director of community relations. He had almost 45 years of extensive experience in developing a wide variety of outreach, community awareness, and promotional programs for the corporate and nonprofit sectors, and worked very closely with Mana de San Diego, an organization dedicated to leadership development, empowering Latinas. Daniel helped them increase membership, create awareness of their programs, and build relationships with donors and foundations to help them grow. With his passing, Mana de San Diego established the Danny Hernandez Leadership Scholarship in his memory to benefit the advancement of Latinas in our community. A community garden was named after him by Project New Village in Southeast San Diego for his volunteer work as a board member in creating equitable access to high quality and affordable healthy foods in under-resourced communities. And his vast relationships throughout San Diego and Imperial County developed through his experience and dedication were a testament to his passion for making positive impact. His legacy is rooted in building healthier and stronger communities. Danny was a true community champion, and his contributions to San Ysidro Health and our region will be remembered forever. Thank you. The next adjournment will be presented by Supervisor Desmond in memory of Ari the Jung and Coach Herb Meyer.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Appreciate it. I'd like to adjourn this meeting in memory of Coach Herbert Meyer. He's a legendary Oceanside coach, teacher, mentor. Herbert Meyer died on April 8th, unfortunately, while vacationing with his family in Spokane, Washington, where he was 87 years old. He retired in 2003 after more than 45 years of teaching and coaching, and he became widely known as one of the most respected interscholastic coaches in history. Meyer retired with more wins than any coach in the history of California high school football. Meyer's coaching and teaching career spanned for more than 4 decades, leaving a lasting impact on Oceanside High School and El Camino High School athletics. In 2003, El Camino Football Stadium was renamed Herb Meyer Stadium to commemorate Meyer's retirement and legendary career. He was inducted into 11 different halls of fame for his contribution to high school athletics, including the City of Oceanside Athletic Hall of Fame and the CIF Hall of Fame. He holds the honors as the first California coach ever inducted into the National High School Sports Hall of Fame, the National High School Athletic Coaches Association Hall of Fame, and the National Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Hall of Fame as well. During his time at Oceanside High School, Meyer coached football and baseball, leading the teams to 112 wins and 2 CIF championships over the course of 17 years. Coach Meyer leaves a legacy of being a true champion and will be missed by all, but not forgotten by those whose lives he touched. So I have another adjournment in memory of R.A.D. Young. We adjourn today's meeting in honor of R.A.D. Young Jr., a man who epitomized the true meaning of faith, family, and community. R.A.D. Young Jr. was not just a successful businessman, but a remarkable human being whose unwavering commitment to giving back was an inspiration to all of us. He was born in the Netherlands in 1939, and his family immigrated to the United States in 1949. Despite facing countless challenges, he persevered and built a legacy that will forever be remembered. He's a devoted husband, father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. His love for his family was evident in everything he did, and his unwavering support was a constant source of strength and comfort to them all. He was a very successful entrepreneur in North County. He owned and operated several businesses, including Hollandia Dairy, a San Marcos landmark that provides milk to many of the different schools and cafeterias throughout San Diego County. He's been a fixture in the community for decades. His business ventures included a drinking water company, a dairy, hog farm, goat dairy, even a porta potty business. He truly was a testament to the entrepreneurial spirit and drive. However, it was Ari's philanthropic efforts that truly set him apart, his tireless dedication to serving others, particularly those suffering from addiction, and making self-destructive and having self-destructive disorders. He was nothing short of remarkable. He and his family purchased and operated Green Oak Ranch Ministries, a non-denominational Christian recovery and restoration center that has helped countless individuals turn their lives around. His legacy and contribution to San Diego County will continue to prosper. His philanthropic spirit will live on forever. And as we say goodbye to this remarkable man, let us take comfort in knowing that his impact on the world will never be forgotten. May God bless his entire family during this difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk, can you please call the remainder of public speakers?
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 24 remaining requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda, 11 in person and 13 requesting to speak by phone. For those that requested to speak by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, please come forward and stand against the east wall under the murals until it is your turn to speak. I'll be calling you in groups of 5, so I'll ask you to please listen for your name. April Strader, Mark, Don Klein, Audrey Reynolds, and Jason Robo. I've called your name. Please come forward. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board, and I'll ask you to please state your name for the audio record. You can come forward in any order.
Hello, I'm Apri Strader. I was a constituent in Joel Anderson's district, but now I'm homeless. The topic is homelessness crisis. My family and I have been homeless since March and working with PCG. They are supposed to be helping us find a place in secure housing. However, they haven't been very helpful. They gave us 60 days in a hotel. I have 19 days left, and after that, me and my family are going to be on the street. There are housing navigators, quote unquote, that send us leads. However, most of them are for studios and 1 bedrooms, all of which will not be suitable for my family of 6. And they aren't even guaranteed to rent to us. All the places that I called don't even take PCG's program. They should not have the title of housing navigators because they don't help you. And my partner and I have to advocate for ourselves consistently. I have currently been on the Section 8 list since I was pregnant with my oldest, 13 years to be exact. Why do I keep getting passed up on the list? When I signed up, it was 8 to 10 years for the wait. We were homeless for 10 years in the past, and I can't accept having my beautiful kids in that situation again. I have been in contact with Joel Anderson's aide, Tori, and Heather, and expressed these issues and concerns, but apparently there's not much they can do. What is the county really doing for this homelessness crisis? I recently was referred to the county's homeless outreach team, and just this morning I was told by them that I was referred back to PCG. Yet another dead end. PCD gets all this funding and they aren't even doing their job. Paying thousands of dollars for a hotel for 2 months is a Band-Aid, not a solution to the problem. I know that the thousands of dollars in funding would have been better used if it was put towards a house instead of a hotel. Are any of you supervisors willing to help me and my family? And that's a real question that I'm asking right now.
So I'm asking somebody to come out and help you right now, see what else we could do, because I know your team, yeah. Okay, but we're gonna see what else we can do.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I
You
figured.
didn't hear everything in the rest.
No, I know.
I'd like to call forward the remaining speakers: Jennifer Crafton, Jane Palmer, Yusef Miller, Michael Mullins, and Francine Maxwell. If I've called your name, please come forward.
Good afternoon, supervisors. I'm here to request that Jack Pellegrino and the board reconsider the evaluation of our unique power purchase agreement.
Sir, can you please state your name for the record?
I'm sorry?
Can you please state your name?
Oh, I'm Don Klein.
Thank you.
Representing Standard Solar. They're a $750 million or billion-dollar company. Okay. We submitted a power purchase agreement, PPA site lease, to save the county 20% on 10% of all the power they purchase. Based on the procedures on page 5, I'd like the board to request Jack Pellegrino and the board to reconsider our new renewable energy plan. And based on page 5 of the renewable energy plan and 3 other sustainability plans that the county has. 10 weeks ago, Standard Solar, a $750 billion company, proposed a PPA to lease 8 acres at 25% above appraisal to continuously butt solar panels, lot line to lot line, 15 foot above the ground, and build a 6-megawatt RV storage canopy east of El Camino Real and north of Palomar Airport Road. Our proposal only requires the supervisors to nod to receive $58.6 million over the life of the agreement. On page 5 of the County Renewable Energy Plan, there's specific procedures on PPA evaluations and approval by the supervisors. I quote, "Requiring PPA funding can be time-consuming. These funding contracts do not allow or do not follow the conventional solicitation process. They require individual negotiation and ultimately need approval by the Board of Supervisors."
Thank you. Your time is up. Sir, your time is up. Sir, your time is up. We'll now hear from the next speaker.
Well, we have your document. His information is at the bottom, on the second page, right?
I'm sorry?
Your information's on the second page.
actually referred it over to Hunt's office.
Yeah.
We've been working with him.
Okay. Thank you. Unfortunately, there's only 2 minutes. It's the rules. We
Oh,
apologize,
I
but feel free to
understand.
reach out to our offices as well.
All right,
Thank you.
Well, I just hope you reconsider it. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Yusef Miller. I'm with the North County Equity and Justice Coalition, and thank you, Chair Vargas and supervisors. My comments are towards Supervisor Anderson. Supervisor Anderson, I received a call from one of your residents in your district, and he has been going through a lot of harassment, I would call terrorism and abuse on his property. He owns an RV at his property that he owns. It's been shot with bullet holes. His animals have been killed. He has not had power in his RV for 2 years, power or heat or warm water. He reached out to me. He has no mayor. He has no city council member. So he reached out to me and asked me to help him get the word out to someone that this is going on his property. He's being harassed by his neighbors. When he got up to go to work, his PVC pipe for his water was damaged. It was broken open. He came back the next day because that's what he does. He's a handyman. He fixed it. He went out to work the next day and it was broken open. He came back and he fixed it. And the third day it was broken open. He and his wife living in this RV has been terrorized with bullet holes, killing of his animals, no heat for 2 years, and all of these things. I sent you an email, you and your office, an email this week, but I would like to also be glad to say that in between this morning and now, from me talking, someone from your office reached out to me during the lunchtime. So I just want to acknowledge that. They did reach out to me, tell me they're going to work on it, and they're going to follow up with me on it. But since I put in the speaker slip, I stayed to speak to you. So this is what's going on in your county. Please look into it. I want to look into it before this escalates into something that we're going to really regret, and I don't want it to be too late. Thank you.
Thank you. Final call for the in-person speakers, Jennifer Kraft and Jean Palmer, Michael Mullins, Francine Maxwell, Audrey Reynolds, Jason Robo, and Mark. Now we'll hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone.
Hi, Paul Henkin. I went on to the Sandag website the other day. It had a privacy statement for me to agree to, like a private agency, which it isn't. I do not trust it further than I can spit, so I read it through. 2 of the paragraphs were really disturbing. They gave Sandag permission to use the data from the highway license plate readers and street cameras, which are supposedly only on police cars, not for drivers who are doing nothing wrong. Nora, thank you for acknowledging us as friends at Sandag. This is another abuse you need to correct. Public agencies should not need a privacy statement and should not be asking permission to invade one's privacy as a precondition to accessing their websites. And at the latest board hearing on April 28th, the San Marcos mayor complained about San Marcos paying a tax on Highway 78 widening for years, but the widening hasn't happened yet. I wonder which project the money was wasted on. Thank goodness for Mary, the Sandag auditor. She found thousands in improper credit card purchases, millions in improper contracts, and nearly $2 million in missing toll fees on State Route 125 with lack of oversight, documentation, and employee training. It needs a truly independent auditor, and that's why. It does not need another Sandag political appointee. Nora, please give this to us. And by the way, your rude treatment of Consuelo and others just proves her point. Let me repeat, you should at least have cut the mic and not have had a shout match.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. My name is Becky Rapp. I'm a parent and a public health educator. Here to recognize that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. As we discuss mental health, it's crucial we talk about substance abuse, particularly marijuana, and the lack of education regarding the negative and life-threatening effects high-potency THC products can have on the brain. A recent study was conducted by a team at Washington State University and published in JAMA, describing the direct connection between marijuana use and suicide. The data shows that the number of attempted suicide by pot users is rising by 17% per year across the U.S. Marijuana use has been linked to increased depression and anxiety in many people, and at the same time, children in the U.S. have been struck by a mental health crisis. There has been a significant increase in reports to poison control about marijuana-linked suicides, and sadly, it was the greatest among children and young adults. Researchers reported that calls to U.S. poison centers about children consuming marijuana climbed a shocking 245%. These numbers cannot be ignored. The message of this devastating effect has to be made known to the public. The marijuana industry is permitted to advertise, package, and manufacture products that are attractive to children, directly impacting their opinions of the products. It's clear this is a predatory industry focused on creating lifetime users. and they would love nothing more than to attract our children. I ask you to strengthen local regulations and perhaps launch an education campaign to counteract misconceptions the industry has been instilling across our county. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Good afternoon, Peggy Walker, public health educator. There's been much talk today about housing shortages and affordable housing needs, which mostly involve multi-unit housing. In line with this, I'd like to point to a warning regarding secondhand marijuana smoke released by the State Office of Environmental Health, OEH, whose focus is science for a healthy California, warns marijuana smoke has chemicals that cause cancer and reproductive harm, including lower birth rates, birth defects, and impact future behavior and learning ability of the unborn. Smoked marijuana creates more particulate matter than cigarettes. It immediately affects the blood vessels of those inhaling, exacerbates asthma, causes sudden narrowing of the arteries, and increases the chance of developing hardened or clogged arteries, heart attack, and stroke. Marijuana smoke has been found to be more damaging than tobacco smoke, and the science states we need to avoid exposure to protect heart and lung health. With this in mind, I ask you to consider marijuana and tobacco smoke-free policy for all new multi-unit housing and in public spaces, as has been done in Encinitas. This will protect children and non-smoking individuals who otherwise will be captive to the negative health impact of secondhand marijuana smoke in multi-unit housing and in public spaces. Non-smokers have an essential right to clean air and healthy living environments. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
You know who I am. What's up, Joel? Were you campaigning today in your whole proclamation? You realize that Tasha Williams is the BLM chick of San Diego, right? I'm so glad that you had her there because it just shows your true colors. And Nora, I just love how you're so triggered by people speaking, and so you have to silence them and make sure they're on topic, even if they are on topic, but you can't hear if they're on topic because you're speaking over them. It's so funny because you're just in line with the way that Nathan was, handling things. And just like him, you're going to fall from that position because you're on Sandag as well, right? And I don't know why people have given you the power to do that, but this board and that board are two of the most important boards in this county. And you're just continually silencing people there. You guys didn't even fully complete all of your non-agenda public comments at the last Sandag meeting. You're selective who you let go through, and it's ridiculous. The fact that you think that you're going to remove Consuelo like that and stick the police on her, you're just like Nathan. You guys want the public to be intimidated, to be afraid, to not come in. All while you say, we care about what the people say, and we want to make sure that the people have a voice. Bullshit. You wouldn't cut down their time. You wouldn't cut them off. You wouldn't stick the police on them. You wouldn't have them beaten by the police. You wouldn't ignore it. You wouldn't fucking destroy everybody's lives. You would actually do stuff that is for the people. It's very sad that you're so triggered. Because what were you going to say, Nora, after I finished speaking? Oh, I better refrain. I better refrain. Why don't you say it, Nora? Just say it. You're weak, and you will never ever succeed at any of the things you guys want to do because evil doesn't win. And you guys are going straight to hell for what you're doing unless you change your ways, and it's up to you. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Truth, here are facts from the YMCA incident in Santee. Last year on May 10th, Nora and Tara voted for a bastardized CDOT ordinance that read, quote, women and girls shall mean those who identify as women and girls. The county shall remove barriers, including access to parks and rec, end quote. That includes bathrooms and locker rooms, and Tara knew that and lied. In 2016, Chris Wood began gender transition while working for the county. In 2021, the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing filed a lawsuit for Chris to sue Crunch Fitness in El Cajon. In 2023, YMCA's Peggy Wiley said that 17-year-old Rebecca Phillips never saw Chris. Rebecca said she saw Chris naked from behind. Rebecca strangely ridiculed the YMCA's shower curtains. The YMCA already had a gender-neutral washroom with a shower, so why was there ever an issue? On April 4th, Joel snuck $70,000 for the YMCA into the consent calendar. And I guess dead on since day one that instead of shower curtains, there will be doors, and men will still be allowed in. Hegelian dialectic. The YMCA is an international UN-aligned organization based in Switzerland who has their own Vision 2030 manifesto. The YMCA says that pride is all year round, and they've even given billions to the CDC. The YMCA masquerades itself as benevolent, but that's only for the people who can't see the top of their pyramid scheme. On April 26th, at his town hall, Joel defended the YMCA and said, quote, "A lot of people say I want to shoot my nose to spite my face," end quote. The reality is that you don't even have a face to spite, Joel. You have no salvageable reputation. Just coincidentally, yesterday, a man was found not guilty of 3 counts of indecent exposure in front of underage girls after using the women's locker room at a YMCA in Ohio. I urge everyone to attend the next Santee City Council meeting on May 10th at 6:30 p.m. Joel and the Santee City Council have been hoping people will forget, and they hate that I'm bringing it up again. But you know what? I'm going to keep speaking about it because you guys snuck this under the rug and lied, even when I directly called it out. I'm tired of that.
Thank you. Now hear from the final caller.
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Kathleen Lippett, District 2. Along with my colleagues from Public Health, we work to protect children. We work to protect children from and young adults from the harms of drug addiction. It's our highest priority, and we hope it is yours as well. We make every effort to provide the overwhelming empirical research and ongoing evidence of high-risk THC marijuana risks. In the Fallbrook community, one of our 28 unincorporated planning groups, one of which I attend, a tragic head-on collision killed a 29-year-old mother and her 4-year-old daughter because a young man was driving over 90 miles an hour and under the influence. This is the kind of carnage that can be expected to increase with your continuing support of the marijuana industry, the source of these high THC products, which contribute to every behavioral health problem you struggle with. Contrary to popular belief, marijuana users are not safe drivers. They're 25% more likely to be involved in a crash than non-users and associated with high-speed traffic fatalities. 50% of California drivers now test positive for marijuana. Our own local emergency and addiction physician on the front lines of the ER department, Dr. Ramit Lev, sees firsthand the devastating damage marijuana causes. She wrote an article regarding 15 things the cannabis industry doesn't want you to know. If you don't know them, you would do well to read it. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes the request for non-agenda public communication this afternoon.
Thank you. With that, we're going to go ahead and have continued closed session tomorrow, and so today's session is adjourned.
The board will reconvene tomorrow, Wednesday, May 3rd, 2023 at 9 a.m.